business spotlight. I say small and medium business, but I don't really like to say small and medium. What we really mean is high growth, because we all know that the only difference between small and medium business and big business is the time that it takes you guys to scale up. And that's how we like to think of our customers in this group, is what are the things that we can do to support them as they evolve, as they grow, as their businesses change and grow, to make sure that we can be with them and a partner with them at each step of the journey. So we are fortunate enough to have two great organizations who are on that growth journey today, AppAnnie and Hotel Planner. And what they're going to do is talk about how they went about thinking about rolling out DocuSign, how they've been thinking about additional use cases, and how the instances of DocuSign fit in with everything else that they're doing with their business in terms of thinking digitally, in terms of thinking about the customer experience, and in terms of thinking about their own growth plans. So with that, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Noam Haberfeld. Didn't want to mispronounce that. Noam's been doing sales ops for almost 10 years. He's implemented Salesforce in multiple organizations as a consultant, and that's given him a bunch of exposure to different industries, different types of businesses. He later moved to Beijing and then onward to AppAnnie. So he's seen a fascinating world of mobile analytics across the map. He was lucky enough to join AppAnnie when it was just 40 people. It's since grown to 450. So he's got a great piece of the journey to be able to share with you guys today. No?
All right, thank you, Matt. Thank you, DocuSign team, for having me. My name is Noam Haberfeld. I'm on the sales operations team at AppAnnie. And as Matt said, I joined 3.5 years ago when we were 40 people in a pretty small office in Beijing. We're now over 450, 14 offices worldwide. AppAnnie helps people make amazing app businesses. So AppAnnie is the world leader in app store analytics. We help app professionals create a cockpit view into their app businesses. Basically, if you're in mobile, or if you're thinking about your mobile strategy, if you're an app publisher of any kind, you probably use AppAnnie, and if not, then you probably should. So, trip down memory lane. AppAnnie back in 2013. So I joined AppAnnie late 2012. Very small team, 40 people, 7 sales reps, but we were global. So we had offices in the US, we had offices in Europe, we had offices in Asia Pacific. And a lot of the processes were being defined on the go. Being such a small company in such a niche market, things were changing not every day, but definitely every month. Reps thought they knew what they were doing. We, sales ops and sales management, thought the reps knew what they were doing, but it was actually kind of constant change, constant adjustments, constant improvements to all the processes. How do you close a deal? How do you send out an order form? What are you allowed to and not allowed to redline on your MSA? And so on and so on. And one of the biggest problems that I had is I was a one-man sales ops team. So I was initially brought in to do the kind of build the Salesforce infrastructure, integrations with marketing, finance, HR, all the fun stuff. And one of the first things that really jumped out was the great need to automate and integrate 2 things: order form generation and DocuSign. So the biggest concern at that time was that the deal closure process was not bulletproof. Like I said, some of the reps knew the process, some didn't. We didn't really know and have good control and command of what was happening. Examples like legal language being wrong, MSA redlining, order form terms, semi-automatic signatures. We had scenarios where we found mistakes only after the customer is signed and had to go back. A huge kind of Wild West, where we would also see a certain rep send out 2 different order forms in one day to 2 different companies looking completely different. So sales ops and sales management, we think we have good control. We think we know what the reps are doing, but our reps are actually looking something like this. So 2016, the reps are still falling, but not as much. And today I can say that we have confidence. We have confidence in the deal closure process. This means that today a deal cannot be marked as closed won in Salesforce, in CRM, without it being signed, order form, and MSA through DocuSign. This gives me, sales ops, peace of mind that I know that I can always go back and trace and see that the relevant stakeholders approved, signed, or declined where needed, and I have the kind of the trail and trace to make sure that no one got sneaky, no one did any monkey business. Visibility. Most of our approvers and signers, sales management. They are not necessarily in the same office as the person who submits the request. So for them, and for me also, to have that visibility, who submitted, who is next to approve, who did not approve, who added what comments, is huge. Before that, it was like, yeah, Sam, the VP approved, it's all good, you can sign it, don't worry about it, and later on we would find mistakes. So visibility is a big thing for us. Approval process is kind of a tricky one. When we started thinking about our approval process a couple of years back, we talked to colleagues in the industry, started to understand what the industry standards were, and a lot of people decide to take their approval processes offline. For us, that can't fly. Email, chat, walking up to your boss, we can't do that. So we decided to take our approval process and put it in DocuSign. This means that from the moment that the rep submits, it goes to the internal approval routing first. So the manager, the country manager, the VP, whoever needs to be involved, legal or finance if it's out of scope, and only then does it go to the customer. And then again, back to visibility and confidence, we can see who approved, who said what, and who declined when that happens as well. So having the approval process in DocuSign was a big shift for us, I think. Saved us a lot of time. We would chase our tails hours over hours just to make sure that the correct people approved whatever they had to approve. So this was a big shift for us. And turnaround time. We have offices in 14 cities in the world. I need to know that on the last day of the quarter at 11:59, I can still get a deal signed. And I don't know how many of you are in SaaS, but for us, the last 2 days of the quarter, too much of the business comes in then, unfortunately, and the last 48 hours are insane. So I need to make sure that the signature is 3:31 before midnight, and we can do that with DocuSign. This is kind of the first praise. I really like this, but this is the first praise that I'm going to give the DocuSign team. I think the biggest thing for us, so first of all, it was Stephanie and Joanna that I don't think they're here, who started the relationship. Now it's Ryan and Megan. I think the biggest thing for us with DocuSign is that they allowed us to scale. We went from 40 people to 450 in 3 years, and it was so easy with DocuSign. And the other thing is that sales ops manages over 20 vendors for AppAnnie. And with DocuSign, they don't nickel and dime you. It's not they try to squeeze every cent and every dollar. They're there to help. And I'll talk a bit about it later. It's not just the accounts team, it's all the support team and kind of the best practices that they provided through the years. So thank you guys. AppAnnie and DocuSign into the future. So the way I see it, we have 3 things that we really need to improve and focus on. First and foremost being the hands-free deal closure process. I like to call it the one-click deal closure process. I love my reps, I really do, but I need to make the process idiot-proof as much as I can. They make too many mistakes, some on purpose, some not on purpose, and I need to make sure that I have the infrastructure to give them 4, 5, 6 different routes to select. Press a button, one of those 4, and that's it. You're done. From that point on, it goes to the managers, whoever needs to approve, and that's it. If the rep wants to call it back, he cancels it, he does it again, but that's it. He doesn't control the language on the order form. He doesn't control who sees what and when what goes where. One click. We started working on this with DocuSign, and I'm hoping that Momentum 17, I might be able to share the success. Efficiency through CPQ. We've started looking into CPQ solutions. Being a smaller company a year or 2 years back, we always saw that CPQ is only for the huge enterprises, but we've come to learn that we can also, AppAnnie, the small, medium business, can also greatly benefit from CPQ. We're assessing 2 or 3 different vendors. And a huge plus is that DocuSign integrates with all three out of the box. One of the biggest concerns with CPQ is that none of them give you kind of the full suite. CPQ for us would be, first of all, doing kind of the product configuration, second of all, doing the quote, and third step is doing DocuSign. Some CPQs have their own e-signatures, some need to integrate through a third-party tool, but the ones that we're looking into, DocuSign is there. So it's one less headache for me to worry about knowing that DocuSign is there and there's no more work that needs to be done. Third, and I think this talks to probably 90% of the people in the room, more mobile. So all of my approvers and all of my signers are on the go. 90% of their emails and 90% of the time is on their mobile phone. And they sign a lot of DocuSign envelopes on their mobile phone, which is great. We love seeing that. What we need to improve is giving the reps the ability to initiate the contracts, initiating the envelopes through mobile. We're not there yet. My reps are still too much on their PCs and Macs. But as we go with CPQ, as we simplify our processes, we need to make sure that DocuSign will be a part of that as well. So praise number 2. We've had great relationships with DocuSign. We love our team. I hope that you guys love us as well. And again, the biggest thing is that they allowed us to kind of grow and scale very, very easily. A lot of other vendors dropped. They couldn't keep up with us scaling. The product was not scalable the way we needed it to. But with DocuSign, it's been simple. You add more seats. Training is simple. Using it is simple. I think that's a huge plus to probably the DocuSign product team, but also the accounts team. And trial and error is a good thing. So I think I've had multiple 40, 50 email threads with the DocuSign support team, trying things out. Again, taking you back to the first slide, processes are changing on the go. So we started with integrating DocuSign into Salesforce, I want to say in 2013. We tried templates. Then we tried the DocuSign to Salesforce Connect. Then we did the approval processes that we have now. Next stage will be the CPQ. And for us, we found that trial and error is a good thing. So we came with kind of what we thought was good and what needs to happen, and then we kind of looped the DocuSign accounts and support team in, and we were able to kind of implement what we thought, but then, you know what, maybe it's not the best solution. And then Stephanie or Joanna would come up, hey Noam, why don't we try doing it this way? And like, oh, let's do it that way. So trial and error for us with DocuSign was really a good thing. It allowed us, it opened us up to a lot of new use cases that we wouldn't have thought about ourselves. We spoke about this. DocuSign has been there. The processes have changed, are changing. The integrations into Salesforce, and not only for sales, but also for HR, for recruiting, for marketing, for finance. We're a tech company, we're a mobile company. A lot of the processes that we have are changing, will continue to change. And knowing that in the back of my mind that DocuSign will always be there. I never need to explain to my CEO why this vendor fucked up because it won't happen with DocuSign. For me is huge. So not just a vendor, a true partner. And one last praise again to Joanna and to Stephanie, who really led us and walked with us through the growing pains and scaling pains. And now looking forward to working with Ryan and Megan. That is our DocuSign story.
All right, thank you, Noam. While Ed is getting mic'd up, I'll give him a great introduction as well. So Ed is the VP of Business Development for Hotel Planner. For those of you not familiar with Hotel Planner, they're the largest online producer of group hotel bookings. So if you've ever been to Vegas for a conference it very likely was Ed's team that was helping to facilitate that. In his role, Ed leads a sales team that's focused on developing new business for their Meetings.com brand. And prior to being in this current role, Ed's held a number of roles within Hotel Planner, first as their regional product director and then as the vice president for their Western region. So with that, I will hand things over to Ed.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. We're excited to be here. I think we've all seen a lot of these websites. These are a lot of our partners right here. And the booking process for these guys is pretty simple. We're in the group world, but you go to these websites, you put in your dates, you put in your credit card, you let them know where you want to travel to, and you're booked. You get your confirmation number. The group booking process for hotels doesn't work the same way. I was blown away as we started this process how backward the hotels do it. A lot of back and forth, phone conversation, email, that culminates in this big print, scan, sign, email, scan, fax process. And as we were talking about how we can fix this process, because it was costing us money, we were losing groups to this process. People were getting frustrated. Your corporate events have to sign a contract. They have meeting space like this, food and beverage, everything else. But a lot of the groups we work with, they're weddings, they're reunions, they're people that aren't used to that process. So as they got engaged in it, they got stuck and they just said, you know what, forget about it. We're staying at the Westin. These are the dates. Everyone go book your room. Our partners were losing business. We were losing business. And one of the things we found that was causing that problem was the contract process. So we reached out to DocuSign and said, we want to automate this. And here's just a timeline of kind of what the hotels and the clients are going through as they're doing this. But we want to take this process and we want to pull it inside our system, allow the hotels to bring their contracts in, create a merge tool for them, and attach the electronic signatures to the bottom to speed the process up. One of the first things we found out from the hotels, though, was they didn't want the merge tool. They already had it. So we had to go back and create a tool for them to bring in an already created contract and attach the electronic signatures. And we did that. We rolled it out. Everyone was happy with it. But now we had a new problem. We got to take this tool and we got to get it out to market and into a market where it doesn't exist. And people are a little prone to change in the hotel world. Salespeople get stuck in their ruts of this is how I do business, and they like it that way, and they're not always quick to change. So we had a lot of communication and education that we had to take care of, both internally and externally. We had to train our people on what we had done, the tool we'd created for them to roll out to the hotels. We had to go out to the hotels, and we have over 100,000 in our database worldwide that we work with. So the process started of, how do we communicate to these people as quickly and efficiently as possible? So the first thing we did was we started with a limited initial release. And we grabbed our key hotels, our best partners, and said, here's this cool new tool we built. Play with it. Try it. Let us know what you think. Let us know what happens. It also enabled us to move to number 2 and educate our people at the same time, because we were collecting contracts from the hotels and we were allowing our people to play with the merge tool. And it worked really well. We got a lot of great feedback from everyone. Some bugs came up that we were able to work out. And when it came time to launch, we only launched in North America. We kept it to US and Canada, and we rolled it out to all of our hotels. And what we did during that launch was pretty simple. We do a lot of email communication with all of our hotel partners, so we sent an email out to everyone letting them know. Our initial partners already had the sneak preview, if you will, but we needed our people to go out to the rest of their hotels and get them on board. We also did a big press release announcing this cool new tool that we did. But letting them know about it was one thing. The next thing we really started to find was people wanted to touch and feel the technology. You could tell them about it. I have a slide later, but I'm going to share the story now. I was having lunch with the director of sales of the Bellagio, and we were talking about some new tools that we had. And she said, well, if you could just do the contract part too, that would be awesome. And I said, it's funny because we've been talking about that. And that's kind of where all this came from. So we ran into the education, and now we're at a point where we're going to be launching worldwide to all of our hotels around the world. The biggest thing that we found as we were rolling this out to everyone was live demos or in person was the best way to get this out there. We had to get the word out quickly to a lot of hotels, and doing a webinar where I could invite 100, 200 hotels to attend it, show them the tool, let them touch and feel and play with it, really worked very well. And everyone wanted that. You could tell them about it to no end, but until they could actually see it in action and see, yes, this does save me time, this does save me money, this is more efficient than what we're currently doing, we've seen great adoption. And then sharing those success stories. We had some really great early successes of hotels that were signing up, brands that were jumping on board. Best Western is one example of that. They bought into the idea right away, rolled it out to all their hotels and said, this is something that we want you guys to be doing. And every day the buzz continues. We share a lot internally. We have a lot of statistics of how many hotels have signed up, how many contracts we've generated, and we share that with the employees. We want to keep that going because we know we still have, we're relatively new with DocuSign. We've only been with for about 8 months now, and the tool itself has only been out in the market for about 3. So we know we still have a long way to go in getting this out to everyone. But if we keep sharing those stories internally, keep everyone motivated internally, and then keep sharing with the hotels, they're going to be just as excited as we are about the tool. And hopefully in another 5 years, paper contracts, as far as the hotels are concerned, will be gone completely, which I think is going to happen anyway as we continue to move that way. But it's been a very slow process getting them all to adopt. And that's it for me. Thank you.
So we've got a little bit of time for Q&A, so Ed, I'm going to ask you to stay up here and Noam to stand up as well. I've got a couple of questions for them, but I wanted to see if folks in the audience, if there was anything top of mind before I take all of their time with my questions.
Great question. So the approval process now, after evolving, involves 3 or 4. The approve button, not the signature. So the managers approve because we only have one final signature on the contract, one from the customer and one from our CEO. But the VPs, the country directors, want to see that everything is ticked and tied. So we add them as signers, but they only approve. We don't get their actual signature. It's crucial for us because once it's in there, no more changes can be made. So it goes kind of the rep puts it in, manager, country manager, VP, and then out to the customer for an actual signature. Question was, once we get all the signatures, do we send it to the client? Same envelope. So approve, approve, approve. It's like a routing. We have no copy, nothing, because as soon as it's done, it comes back to us for counter signature. If they need a physical signature, fine. We sometimes print it, sign, and send back, but it's all in one envelope. I'm not happy to say this, but we did have envelopes with 8 or 9 different people on. But happens.
Okay. So, Noam, you talked a little bit about how you guys were looking for expansion beyond kind of those first use cases. And I'd be willing or be interested to know, you've gone through and started this first use case. What else is on your roadmap, or what else are you guys thinking about kind of beyond this first big implementation?
I think next thing for us is going to be payment. As we started the conversation of contract, how people, obviously in the contract, it's usually something involving payment. And so now we're looking at credit card authorization form possibly, or other forms where we can get that into the process as well. A hotel contract will typically ask for a deposit. Maybe it's $1,000 to hold the space. And they'll be able to then integrate that payment process into what we're doing. And I learned that while I'm here actually, that there are some tools coming on as well that are going to be able to enable us to do that too.
Ed, you were talking as you went through about how you started with just some of your best customers in terms of the rollout. Noam, I'd be interested, when you guys started with this, how did you think about that rollout? Did you do a pilot? Did you do some trialing? Or did you kind of do a big bang to get this out to both your team and externally?
So being a tech-savvy company is a curse and a bliss. We started as a small company. Everyone's on DocuSign, no questions asked. Little did we know that we had a lot of business in Asia Pacific. 4 years ago, DocuSign adoption or e-signature adoption in general in Asia Pacific wasn't very high. I'm happy to say that now a lot more companies, not the ones that deal with government, but a lot more companies are freely using e-signatures and DocuSign. But for us, it was just a rollout, no questions asked. All the internal documentations, hiring, stock, all that, DocuSign, no questions asked. But even with the clients, it's easy to use. We didn't have to send them an explanation on what to do or how to do. It's like, hey, this is the contract, please sign it. If you need an executed copy, we can send you one, but that's all we need from you. Send it, sign it, send it back, and that's it.
Ed, you mentioned some of the other travel properties being partners of yours. I'd be interested, as you're rolling out this solution, how you thought about whether it needed to integrate with other systems, with other partner systems, with your own systems, and how you were able to think about that, and how DocuSign was able to help you think about that.
It's coming. We've got a lot. Every hotel is on a different system. So what we wanted to do was do the integration in our system, because the hotels live in our system. We send them the group leads, they respond to them. Most of the activity happens there. Although we are doing some integration on the CRM side, we really tried to house everything and keep it in our enclosure, because there's just so many options. Hyatt has a proprietary system. Westin uses one company, Marriott uses a different company, and so on and so on. So rather than try and be everything to everyone else, we said we'll be everything to our customers and let them kind of run with it from there.
And what's kind of the customer experience been from what you've been hearing back from either hotels or even, the end customer in terms of the experience that they're now having with DocuSign?
I think it's been great. We've had a lot of folks that, we take for advantage all the technology we may have in our office. I have a fax machine that looks like a giant paperweight now. But we have printers, we have scanners, we have all these tools for us in our office. A lot of folks don't have that at home. And that was one of the things that would slow this process down. The client would say, oh, I sent that back last week. Oh, the hotel didn't get it. Can you please resend it? Yeah, but I got to go down. I got to get printed out again. I got to take it back down to FedEx, refax it to them, and labor the process out. Now they can pull their phone out. They can pull their tablet out. They can sign it from anywhere. And it's speeding up that process. So the hotels are getting the paperwork back faster, which the salespeople are happy about because it's hitting their quotas. And it's easier for the clients too. They're not having to engage in all those other pieces. They just do that and it's signed and they're ready to go.
So, Noam, you started when AppAnnie was 40 people. How were you able to get DocuSign or other technology investments onto that roadmap to say this is something that we as an organization should be investing in, and to kind of get that mandate to put this implementation in place?
I was lucky to join a company that the CEO sees ROI. He doesn't care. He's okay spending money if we can justify it. With DocuSign, it was easy. Hey, Bertrand, it's going to save us time. We don't need to wait for the documents to go out and ship it and come back. No, it's going to save us time. Last day of the quarter, 11:59. If we need to sign a deal, we can do that. If you need to physically ship it, you can't. And again, I think to Ed's point, I think the huge leverage with DocuSign comes when you integrate it into your own system. And that was part of the case that we made, sales operations, to our CEO. It's like, it's not going to be a standalone tool. It's going to be part of our process. It's going to be part of CRM. It's going to be part of the HR systems of Oracle and all that. And we've seen that when it's part of the process, when there are no stops, you don't need to stop in Salesforce and then go. No, it's all part of the process. The time being saved is huge. The ease of use is huge. The customer doesn't necessarily see that, but internally, it saves us a lot of time and a lot of anger management needs with our reps. So it's a huge plus. once you get it integrated, only then you see. You don't even understand how you could do it beforehand. When it was 2 different systems or 3 different systems, I cannot imagine now going back to a non-integrated world with between DocuSign and Salesforce.
One more. While we're on this thread, Ed, I'd want to hear your point of view on that as well. You were employee 14.
Mm-hmm.
How did you push to get the mandate for a technological solution like DocuSign?
It was simple on our end. Our COO was already on board with it because we identified the problem right away. We saw, we were losing business, whether it was salespeople not responding, the process taking too long, whatever it was. So our internal conversation started. We were probably talking about this in some way, shape, or form for about a year before we actually started to take the action to implement it and roll it out.
Real quickly, I don't know how many materials or documents you guys are dealing with, but can you talk a little about the challenges you might have had in getting those documents templatized and ready to go and set up in DocuSign? How big of an endeavor was that?
Sure. So the question for folks who might not have heard it was, in terms of understanding the amount of document volume that you guys are dealing with and any challenges that you may have faced in getting those documents ready to be able to send out through DocuSign for transactions.
For us, it wasn't huge because we do sales. Most of our use of DocuSign is through sales. So we're talking about an order form, account information, maybe product information, some legal terms, and the MSA. The MSA, 80% of the time, is not touched. When it does need to be touched, that's between legal teams before it even gets to DocuSign. So we have, I want to say, 4 or 5 templates that we use, and that covers 90% of our use cases.
It was a bigger challenge for us because every hotel has their own contract. So that's why we added the second tool. The merge tool was great. They could bring in their contract, but they still had to create that document. It was a relatively easy sell because chances are we're booking 20 plus groups a year with them anyway. So to do it and create it, you're not just going to use it once, you're going to be able to use it moving forward. But then hotels started telling us, no, I already have this tool in place to do the merge on my end, but we love the DocuSign idea. Let's add the electronic signature to it and send it out. So we created the second platform for them where they can kind of choose. But it has been and will continue to be an ongoing challenge for us just because even I could go to Hyatt Place, for example, and say, do you have a template contract? And they may or may not say yes. If they said yes, I in our system can put it on every hotel, every Hyatt Place hotel in our system. But physical address needs to be updated. Updates need to be made to each one to make it property specific. So we're still tackling that and figuring out better ways to do it, but it is a bit of a challenge.
Okay, I've got one last question for you guys, but before that, I wanted to see if there's anything else from the audience before we wrap up. Okay.
So I'm not the software developer. I wish he was here. But they had a tag system that they used so that it could drop it in different locations. And we have drag and drop on the signature pieces for signature, for initials, and for date. Because, again, every hotel might be a little bit different. All of them are going to have a signature at the bottom of the document, a signature and a date. But they might also have initials on every page. Or they may have other locations within the contract where we need to drop a signature in at. So we have them, we built it out in our system as literally drag and drop that they pull them in. And then in addition, if they're uploading their own document, and this was your feature as well, you can order the signatures as well. So I can say, okay, it goes to this person first, second, third, fourth, first, second, however many we have, I can add in additional signers and I can adjust all that, or they can adjust it, I should say, as they're sending it out on the fly as well.
Are they doing the adjustments in your system?
Yes.
You're telling DocuSign?
Yes.
They're not adjusting it in DocuSign?
Yeah, we actually did a full integration, and it was funny as we started the first session on Tuesday. I was like, oh, that's what the DocuSign site actually looks like, because I've spent so much time with what our developers have done and bringing it into our world.
Okay, so last question for each of you, and I'll start with you, Noam. If you had to give one piece of advice for the folks in here who are either starting their journey or taking the next step on their journey as a high growth organization, what would that be in terms of thinking about how to take that next step?
I'd have to say use your DocuSign resources, the knowledge base, the accounts team. They have so much knowledge. It doesn't really matter if they've never been in real estate or they've never been in tech. We had hour-long conversations with Stephanie and Joanna about how to improve, what to do, best practices, things that we didn't even think about. I think we all come with a biased look on what things need to be like. But then after talking to them, they were like, hey, we maybe look at it from this angle or from that angle. And that really helped us solve a lot of the question marks that we have. So definitely use, the knowledge base that's on the website, but B, your accounts team. They have a lot of experience and they've probably seen your problem before. So use them.
That's perfect. And I would just add to that too, for us, because it was a little bit of a different setup, engage your customers if that's something that's going to be important to you in the process. It was invaluable to us as we did that initial test where we rolled it out to our key partners to get their feedback. The stuff they gave us was more valuable than a lot of the stuff we even did before that, and really helped us build the tool out to where it is now.
All right, thank you guys very much. Last round of applause for Ed and Noam.